Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
You know, when I was a kid, I remember growing up. I grew up born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, in the shadow of the Vietnam War. And I remember those guys coming back from Vietnam who were basically just dumped into our housing project like garbage. I mean, they were broken, drug, alcohol problems, bodies broken, minds broken. And they were just dumped. And it was one of the things I said right at the beginning that I never wanted to see happen again. When we entered into these wars, the idea was we take care of those folks. But for me, growing up in that era, I'll tell you, it left a mark on me when I look at the military. I respect any person in a uniform. I give them the utmost credit and respect possible. But the institution, little struggle. The number of people I saw in that heavy army green coat, like the guy we found dead on the side of the neighbor's house, sticks with me even to this day. So I got to wonder, how does this play on a generation who's it's all they've known. We've been technically at war this entire time, and that's why I've asked Santiago Mayer to come talk with us. Santiago is the founder and executive director of Voters of Tomorrow. Votersoftomorrow.org is their website. Santiago, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So like I said, I mean, I spent the good portion of the years growing up seeing people in Army uniforms who had major problems. And it got me thinking, you've spent almost your entire life, probably your entire life, with this nation at war. What does that mean for your generation?
It is horrible. I mean, this war has been going on for 2 months longer than I've been alive. What's going on is absolutely horrible. What we should have evacuated the people who helped the U.S. Army before it left. But there is no question in my mind that it was time to leave. The mission was to kill Osama bin Laden, to avenge what happened 9/11. That happened almost 10 years ago, and it was simply time to leave.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where we were never told that we were going to be there for 20 years, and those of us who study a little bit of history, understand that the British tried, failed, and I lived through the era when the Cold War and the Soviets they got bogged down there for 17 years, and ultimately it was one of the reasons for the fall of the Soviet Union. But we're exceptional. Could never happen to us. But here we are 20 years later, your entire lifetime mired in this conflict that ended exactly like I thought it would, and I think a lot of people did before it even started.
No, I mean, absolutely. I think everyone who looked at this from a mile away could have predicted this is how it was going to end. You really cannot help support a government that won't support itself. And what I think is absolutely disgusting is the people who are using it for their own domestic political benefit. I mean, I saw the Ohio Republican Party tweet that we need to secure the border because people are fleeing Afghanistan. And I'm not entirely sure where they think Afghanistan is. But there are people from all across the political spectrum trying to score political points with real lives and real people who are worried about their families and their safety. And I just think it is absolutely disgusting that they're trying to score political points back at home by using their lives which are at stake.
Now, obviously, the next fight is going to be, what do we do with those people in Afghanistan who did help us, who were part of trying to build something? We know that if they're left there, they're all going to be executed. We know that. But there are going to be those voices here, like the Republicans who want to build a wall again, that are saying, screw them.
No, and I mean, I've listened today to so many Republicans who keep saying they're so concerned about the lives of our Afghan allies, and my challenge to them is then let's bring them here. If they are concerned about their lives, let's bring them on as refugees. But that's not what they're doing. I mean, Tucker Carlson is already saying that we invaded them, so now the Biden administration is going to bring them here and have them invade us. The xenophobia really that plagues every foreign policy decision made about the Middle East is just absolutely staggering. And we really need to think about the fact that, again, these are real people with real lives, and we can't just use them as playing cards. They have meaning, and leaving them to die is untenable. I really do think we should be offering all of them refuge in the U.S. or in countries or in U.S. allied countries around their home.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we sold them on the idea that they could take their country in a direction, knowing. And look, it's always been my view that this was not an area that was ever going to be democratic. They were never going to be in a mold like ours, and that eventually this was all going to fall back into this hands. I'm just shocked at how fast it happened. I thought it would be months in the making, as did the our military industrial complex. Um, at least I think they did. But I'm kind of shocked at how quickly this happened. So the question then comes back to, how do we hold this whole process accountable? I blame us for racing into this. The people of those of us who were around at 9/11, who wanted blood, we wanted retribution, we wanted Bin Laden dead. We didn't want this. I don't think we wanted 20 years of war. Thousands of soldiers killed, trillions of dollars wasted. But we're going to have to figure out how to dig out from this, and it's going to come back to our elections. And the more I'm looking at what's going on, Santiago, is this game's being rigged, and our democracy is under attack.
No, absolutely. I mean, the fact is that, like you said, this was a war fought by a generation that mostly wasn't able to vote on it. And the fact is that people deserve a right to vote on who their leaders are and what decisions are being made. And the current status quo is really not letting that happen. I mean, we see gerrymandering, we see voter suppression. There's been over 420 bills introduced in over 40 states, just trying to limit the vote. And unfortunately, that really ends up really impacting young voters and voters of color who don't have don't have the skills to go and fight voter suppression. I mean, I see people my age who are really confused by why this fight is going on, and they really think that it shouldn't be controversial. People should elect their representatives should elect them. So the fact that maps are drawn to try and choose the people who you want to represent it is antithetical to everything that this country is supposed to stand for.
Yeah, but it's not new. I mean, gerrymandering is not new. I mean, this goes back 100 and some years. What is
Yeah.
new as the precision at which they're able to gather data and to carve up areas that look like Rorschach tests, that look like cartoon characters, that there are the most bizarre, non-compact and non-contiguous districts you can come up with. I'm not horribly opposed to the idea of gerrymandering if you're gerrymandering to make more competitive districts so we have more democracy instead of less. But those who want to hold on to power and keep power, knowing their numbers are dwindling, they're getting much more creative and using our court system to help along.
Yeah, and it's not only gerrymandering. I mean, the fact is that gerrymandering is coupled with efforts to make sure that people of color cannot vote, to make it harder for young people to register to vote, with efforts to prevent online registration and with efforts to prevent automatic voter registration. And what they're really trying to do is secure power with the support of the minority. Their supporters are in large numbers not supporting them anymore, which is a representative of the fact that their policies are not popular with the people that they represent. And what they're really trying to do is figure out a way to retain power without having that support. So they are doing it in the most anti-democratic way possible. They are making sure that the people who would vote them out can't vote. And that is against everything that this country is, again, supposed to stand for. And that's why Voters of Tomorrow is here to try and really fight all those efforts and make sure that young voters know how to combat those efforts and still go out and make sure their voices are being heard.
Yeah, you said a second ago that the Republican policies aren't popular. I would argue that not just that they're not popular, they don't exist.
Right.
And in places where they did take a position, like praising Trump for his decision to get out of Afghanistan, they immediately want to go back and undo that and erase it and rewrite it. Basically, they're the Winston Smiths of the 21st century. Are you surprised by any of this, though? I mean, this is how the game is played, right?
I'm honestly not surprised. I mean, I was tweeting in the morning. I saw a bunch of Republican politicians go back and delete all their tweets about Afghanistan before August 10th. And I keep saying that being pathetic is natural to who they are, but every day there is a new low as to what they do. and trying to get elected with literally fascist ideals like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert, while also denying what they said even months ago is just again pathetic. That is not something that anyone should be proud of. But the Republican Party keeps going on and putting it in T-shirts. I mean, Kevin McCarthy was in the possibly greatest cell phone of all time, was selling T-shirts that literally said moron. So the Republican Party is just proud of being this thing that they've become. And I don't think anyone should reward them for that. I think they should keep getting their ass beat in elections for every election to come.
Unless they can lie, cheat, and steal, as they've been trying to do. You brought up Lauren Boebert a second ago, and today she tweeted out that the Taliban was building back better. When I read that, I'm going, wow, even for you, that's low.
Yeah. No, I mean, they pride themselves on being the lowest of the low. Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene have, for the entirety of their terms, just tried and said the most controversial thing they could think of. And this is just another example of that. I mean, their goal is to get donations by being controversial, and it's working for them. And this is why we need to reform our election finance system so that stuff like that does not work.
Ultimately, because all of this, and you're right, it all comes back down to the money. All of this. In fact, I started off the show talking about the Politico article that was, presented by Lockheed Martin, talking about where Joe Biden failed. And you go, why is Lockheed Martin putting out, this, supporting this kind of stuff? Because it makes Biden look bad and pushes this frame of we shouldn't be leaving. We've been there 20 years. The Lockheed Martins, the Grummins, the Kellogg Brown and Roots, the Halliburtons, all of these huge military industrial complex companies have made billions of dollars off of the taxpayer and off of the blood of our soldiers. And they never want to leave that environment.
No, and again, those soldiers are generally younger people. I mean, the people that are dying are people who probably weren't even born at the time the conflict began. And that just really goes to show about how long it I was not even born when troops landed in Afghanistan for the first time.
Right.
I'm currently 19 years old and leading this organization. And it is unthinkable that we've spent this long and really achieved nothing. We achieved nothing. The government collapsed the second the U.S. government began to lead. It is just a testament to the failures of U.S. foreign policy, not only of even Republican presidents, because it goes back decades. It doesn't just go back to even George W. Bush who started this, but it just goes back to a legacy of failed policies for every administration.
Look, there's nobody who's 100% to blame, and nobody is blameless in all of this. But I don't put it at Biden's feet. A couple reasons. One, he's only been in office a couple of months, and he inherited this withdrawal. I think he did the best he could do given the horrible situation that he was put in. I do want to ask you about the group that you founded, this Voters of Tomorrow group. Basically, explain to me what it is first.
Yeah. So Voters of Tomorrow is a youth-led, nonprofit, nonpartisan voter engagement organization. What we do is we work with young people who might or might not yet be eligible to vote and try to educate them about history, about civics, about the inner workings of government. We try to make sure that they have their voices heard, that they speak up with whatever they think. And we also work within government to make sure that people are being receptive to those governments. There is a gun lobby, there is a tobacco lobby. There really isn't a young person lobby. And we're doing the best that we can to make sure that that doesn't affect young people and that their voices are still being heard and still have an impact. I mean, we're going to be here the longest, so we should have a seat at the table that will eventually be ours.
No, you're right. The website, if you guys want to check it out, votersoftomorrow.org. We'll get links out on social media how folks can take a look at that. But I think back to when I was 20 years old, and look, Bill Clinton was president. We had gotten through the H.W. Bush years. There was that quick war victory in Iraq that gave us this idea that, oh my goodness, we can win wars in a weekend, and we don't even have to sacrifice for it. And we had things were riding high at that time. I was able to vote. I've never been denied the ability to vote, and I look at what you guys are going through at this moment. saddled with a lifetime of student loan debt, at every turn being denied the ability to make changes. And I'm glad somebody's out there fighting for you guys to be able to get what I took for granted at 20.
No, I mean it is such an important fight, and it's even kind of ironic. I mean, I'm not a U.S. citizen, I'm not eligible to vote, but I do think that it is important for everyone who can vote to go vote because of people like me who can't. And it is our goal really is to make the students of tomorrow, of today, the leaders of tomorrow. The organization's called Voters of Tomorrow for a reason. We work with those who are going to be making decisions in the future. And what the goal is simply to give those people a voice in the room. Decisions are being made by people who are significantly older than us and who probably won't see the consequences, the long-term consequences of those decisions. And if they don't even listen to what young people are saying, it's going to be really hard for them to try and understand the impact that those decisions will have. So Voters Tomorrow is trying to get in the room. It's making noise. It's working, and it's in the ground, really getting people engaged and getting college students to be a part of this movement and to build a new generation of democracy defenders.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and I say this all the time, I have some hope that there's going to be a bright future because a lot of the younger people like yourself that I've spoken to have their heads screwed on straight. As where, again, when I was 20, it was about, going out drinking, partying, doing that kind of stuff. Not that you're not, well, you're not even legal to do that yet. But, not that you're not doing that stuff, but that your head's a little better screwed on than probably past generations have been because you've had no choice. Your entire life, we've been at conflict. So I applaud you for the work that you guys are doing. I hope folks will check out the website, votersoftomorrow.org. Make sure you check that out. We'll get links out. Santiago, I appreciate you taking time. Hope you'll come back and talk to us again sometime soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. Good stuff. Santiago Mayer, a founder and executive director of Voters of Tomorrow, votersoftomorrow.org. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.